Y'all heard me talk about Warcraft 3 2.0 patch that hit 13th of November, but I wonder how the outside world, not the outside world like our parents and stuff and our grandparents, but how the outside world perceived the success of Warcraft patch 2.0. To make a summary of what I think, and then we're going to be watching this video from Bellular about Blizzard didn't finish the job. My thoughts on it, in a nutshell, are that it is a great optimistic stride towards a lot of improvement, much of which we already have, but with much work left to be done. For someone that has played Warcraft 3 almost every day, in the last year, and has played Warcraft 3 for 20 years, what I need out of it is going to be wildly different than what someone needs out of the patch that has never played Warcraft 3 or last played 19 years ago. So I'm hoping that this video is going to offer some perspectives, and we'll see what we agree and disagree with. Let's check it out.
At this stage, Warcraft 3 really is just a cursed game. Reforged actually launched just under half a decade ago, which definitely stings. It was a complete disaster, but now Blizzard wants to change things.
I don't agree it was a complete disaster. I hear this a lot, and I think it's important to offer perspective. It is very easy to hate on it from the outside if you don't play the game, that you just bounce off of Warcraft 3 Reforged 2020 makeover as something that was 100% negative. But as with many things in life, nothing is fully black, nothing is fully white. And in fact, it was not fully negative. We got many good things out of it. Widescreen support, the removal of the requirement to open ports in order to create games, to have your friends or anyone join your games in custom game lobbies on Battle.net, or to join 2v2 arranged team partner teams. There were many archaic technological problems with the old Warcraft 3 that made getting into Warcraft 3 difficult. Terrible latency when you play online, and mouse lag inside of the client without changing many things that the average user would never know how to figure out how to change. So Reforged brought many good things. There was a very ambitious scope that I do believe was mismanaged and misdirected, in that they wanted to completely rewrite the book on art, and they weren't as good as the old team, so this was disastrous. And then they were underfunded, mismanaged, they fired most of the staff, people left, bad management. I don't know exactly what was going on inside. There were many disastrous things, and the game was left in a very broken state. This is true, but it was not wholly a disaster. That's all I'm saying.
Shipped update 2.0, and it is positioned quite big. It's, yes, righting a wrong, but it's not just that. You see, Warcraft 1 and 2 and Beyond the Dark Portal are all remastered, and now they're all bundled together in the nostalgic Warcraft 3 battle chest for $39.99.
Yeah.
And I'd absolutely love to tell you that it's all a free win, but no, it is in fact a bit more complicated. You may have seen headlines of false advertising, or at least chat of it, and yeah, there's actually something to that, and I was also misled by some of Blizzard's promotional material.
True.
What they've shipped also does not hold up well under scrutiny at all times, and what we see is that, yes, I think there are individuals at Blizzard who mean well, who want to do the best here.
True.
But Blizzard, the corporation, well, they were not really able to match people's expectations. And there's something that explains all of this. Whenever Blizzard spoke of their RTS team, they weren't lying. There is an RTS team. It's just absolutely not what you would expect. So let's get into the story. To start, I want you to take a look at this image that totally appears to be a screenshot of Warcraft 3 Reforged 2.0, and particularly taking a look at some of those human buildings, you can see what appear to be excellent art updates, remade buildings.
Yeah, I think this is debatable. Is it really an excellent art update? I think some things look, I do think it looks quite good. You'll have to see how it actually plays. If this were ever a realistic image that you actually can play with, you have to see whether there's any problems with it. Keep in mind that it's much easier to do the work, like to show this kind of art without actually needing to make it real. It's very obvious from the way that the rifleman is leaning back that this is not a real in-game model, because how could a rifle lean back from a unit that it's firing at? That's not how models behave in Warcraft 3.
They really do stand out. But while these images were all over the internet and were even featured on the Battle.net launcher, it turns out they're actually not screenshots of Warcraft 3 Reforged.
True.
They are images of it, and they probably did originate as screenshots, but they have been heavily touched up in post. Indeed, if you take a look at the trees, you'll soon notice that those are not Warcraft 3 trees. They are in fact painted in. If you fire up the game, what you get is something different, although it is something that is in line with the trailer's claims: up-resed original assets and updated environments. Now, immediately this looks like an old industry tactic that we used to hate back in the day, called the bullshot, as in screenshot plus bullshit equals bullshot, a trend where game screenshots basically wouldn't be representative of what you would get. And on face value, it absolutely seems that Blizzard outright tried to mislead people.
I think that's the images that existed on the website were actually on the purchasing site. And so part of Blizzard definitely tried that, I would say. Is it the part that is also working on this game, or is it just some rogue marketing element? But these images that are not real gameplay images were promoted as gameplay images and were on the purchasing landing page of where you buy Warcraft 3 Reforged. That is very problematic and is false advertising.
Seems like an insane thing to do, especially so obviously, and that's because this is probably a mistake, and I think it's all quite explainable. You see, if you take a look at Blizzard's press center, you do find these images, but they're not labeled as gameplay screenshots. They are correct.
Not anymore. This was labeled as stills before, allegedly, supposedly, but now it says concepts, with the stills still being the name under these images.
Be labeled as gameplay concepts. And a concept and a screenshot are, of course, different. This explains what we see here, but unless you're in the industry, it still is going to feel off and manipulative and wrong. I mean, why would you take a screenshot of the game and then touch it up and show it to people? Well, the answer is you never should have showed it to people, but there is a reason why that would be made. And in this case, it's the difference between the type of concept art that you see in, say, a glorious double spread on a premium art book, and then a piece of working concept art, as in things that artists do to help the production of a game. To my eye, what this is, rather clearly, is a visual target. And visual targets like this are extremely common in industry. What people will often do is literally have artists create a final screenshot. It's not.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with making images like this and then using them internally. And there's not even anything wrong with making images like this, releasing them to the public and saying, this is not real gameplay. Remember when people used to say that? Not representative of the game or something. Like, this is just concept art, or we took a screenshot and we heavily changed it for a potential vision. But then, as long as you don't use it on the purchasing website and as long as you clearly identify what it is, not actual gameplay, yeah, then it's fine. Like, nobody would be complaining about that. To me, this didn't have any impact, obviously, because patch 2.0 was brought as a free upgrade to people that already own a license of Warcraft 3. So again, anyone that already owns the game, which is anyone that was playing the game over the last year, none of this makes a difference on our enjoyment of the game. Patch 2.0 was a free upgrade and so on. And I think it's important to point that out. Now, if you bought the game because of these images, or if you got an idea because of these images, you were falsely advertised to, and that's where the real problem is. I hope Bellular also talks about the good of what came with patch 2.0, but he's not wrong about this.
Not actually a final screenshot, but it's an asset that is meant to look like one. And the whole point is that with that existing, it can serve as a North Star, so the people working on the project can have a clear definition of what good looks like and can work towards it.
Yeah.
That's why a gameplay concept like one of these images would exist. But of course, this should never be shown in marketing materials. This should
unless you clearly identify what it is.
Not be on Blizzard's press center because it is obviously confusing and misleading. I think that most likely human error, crossed wires, or staff in marketing who are not artists and didn't really notice the difference just led to this happen, and it is a perfect storm of bad. But I do think of Hanlon's razor, right? Never attribute to malice what can be adequately explained by stupidity. I think it's likely that. But even with a reasonable explanation, this is still an absolute expectations management nightmare, because we can see what they thought a visual target was.
By the way, to be fair, before we go on with this, after the world and the Warcraft scene discovered about these images, it took them a day or two to correct everything and to remove the images from the landing site of the purchasing website, and then also renaming these to concept art. So it was an acknowledgement and recognition that this was not the way to advertise the game. It is unfortunate that marketing websites over the world already took those images from the media center since day one and are then using those in their own articles. And it is their responsibility to then update those images with actual screenshots from the game, though I doubt many of the news sites that reported on patch 2.0 actually got the game for themselves and used their own screenshot. Most likely, they just did a lazy screen grab of all those screenshots and then just wrote the news in what appeared to be the situation. So that's why I think it's important to look at these videos and also offer context, because the truth is more nuanced than what we're actually getting.
And we can compare that to the up-res thing that we actually got. And getting all this right is the sort of thing you need a big wrinkly brain for.
It's what press kits are for. Is that lazy? Yeah, true. But what about journalism and trying out the game? But it's true. It's Blizzard's fault first. But now that the images have been removed, I think the any website that covered it should change the screenshots to the actual truth. Though, of course, most people will not go back and read those articles as much anymore as day one.
And thankfully, today's sponsor are going to help you get one. Who are an absolute favorite of mine. They're a true supporter of the channel. They are boot.dev, and here's the deal with them. They will teach you back-end web development using Python and Go, but importantly, they're just a cut above the rest because they're designed for people like you and me, because their founders are actually viewers of the channel and big gamers themselves. So boot.dev is also a community RPG. I mean, just look at this real-time leaderboard. It's so neat. They've got quests, community boss battles,
gamification,
XP, all supporting an extremely thorough, detailed, career-focused learning pathway, of course, made by people in that career.
That's the only way
that'll take you from the basics of Python right through to learning back-end development with fun side quests as well, like remaking asteroids in Pygame, and vital career adjacent skills, things like mastering Git. Now, back-end development is a high-paid career path. You're averaging 100 grand, often with great contracts, flexible working, and these are real transferable skills across the industry.
You
and
can
Boot just do it better than everyone else. So you can check them out today at boot.dev/Bellular News. There, you'll get 25% off your first purchase. I'd go annual for the biggest saving, and if they're not for you, well, they've got a no questions asked 30-day refund, and also you can browse their materials and their demos for free. To make things clear, here is an A-B comparison. You can see that one of them is an up-resed original asset, which is what they intentionally marketed and what is in the trailer. The other is the concept work, which they perhaps unintentionally...
there it is. So what's going on here, Blizz? Yeah, so people so people try to kind of recreate somewhat the position and look of the buildings. This is cool. They did forget the inner fire on the mortar team. The tower is a little bit further away. There's no peasant with a gold mine, but by and large, it's kind of what it is. So funnily enough, the Crypt Fiend is nearly the same, almost identical. The knight obviously doesn't have whatever burning fire on his head. As you can see here, there's some kind of fire. No footman ever has a green sword. Like, it's not a thing. So that's already a dead giveaway of what's going on here. I don't know who would even do that. Which artist draws green on a footman's sword and says this makes sense in the world of Warcraft? But yeah, anyway, the priest, his cloak is a lot darker. Water elemental. By the way, this water elemental looks atrocious. It looks like it's not placed at all in the world. This is Classic HD, by the way, in case you were wondering, not Classic SD. You can tell because the shadows are realistic. This is the Reforged lighting environment setting. Classic SD, aka Legacy Warcraft from 2002, has blob shadows. They're not real. They're not the real image of the model that's standing there. So is this actually how Water Elemental looks like? I wonder. It's a Plague Footman attacking Abomination. Yeah, that doesn't exist.
Marketed. You can see that they're even stylistically different, and in isolation, seeing that concept, you would not be silly to think.
To be honest, some parts of left look better, some parts of right look better, in my opinion. Like, I don't think this is like such a clear upgrade, which is why I was so surprised when people say, oh my god, this looks really good, I want to go get the game now. Now, having said that, Classic HD is barely a change from Classic SD either. Like, it's almost like Legacy, but with just new lighting. The up-res amounts for very little when you're actually playing with the game. I do wish we got a fully remade Classic HD graphic, just everything hand redrawn. That would be great. And I do wish that. But I think the reason I barely asked for that, or barely expressed that wish until now, a week since the unveiling, is because I don't believe we're getting it.
think that this was supposed to be a full remake of the in-game assets, perhaps a touch of that delicious Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition seasoning, which is not what this is. Now, what we did get is, I would say, leaning positive, absolutely, but it is a bit of a mixed bag. The thing, though, is, to anybody who expected something fundamentally different, this would be kind of gutting, especially in context. Warcraft 3 Reforged was, in my opinion, an absolute unmitigated artistic disaster.
That I agree with. In terms of artistry, it is 100% a catastrophe, because the artistry of Reforged 2020 was not good. Some people say, I actually kind of like it, and I practice my patience with agreeing to disagree. It was not good. It was not good.
Not just as a product, but its artistic integrity.
Artistically,
the artistic character of Warcraft 3 completely disappeared. It was replaced with these kind of horrible, gnarly-looking, over-detailed models that look like they're from Raid Shadow Legends, not a Blizzard product. And it's in the context of just how off-model Warcraft 3 Reforged graphics were that this concept actually stings. Because
this concept looks better than Reforged, but that's a very low bar to clear.
it teases us with what a proper remaster would look like. But of course, there's more to this story than just 4 concept pieces of work. Let's take a look at Warcraft 3 Reforged, Update 2.0, and what Blizzard actually shipped. Yep. Original assets have been upscaled, likely using some form of AI technique, which I would say is in principle absolutely fine. Upscalers...
Yeah, I'm glad he agrees with that. I also think it's in principle fine. You could take the position that it will never be fine in principle, but I think you'll find that it's going to happen no matter what. I choose to adopt a mindset of AI art in principle is fine when you upscale your own work. I think it gets more gnarly when it comes to sourcing it with art that does not belong to you. Like where you scour the web and you assimilate millions of images, then there could be some kind of derivativeness going on, which, by the way, humans do as well. All of us have seen all the art we've seen, and we also use that for inspiration for our own art. But it gets a lot more gnarly when you talk about, a machine doing it, because you don't know to what degree they're pretty much just copying a style. That's more gnarly. But using AI abilities to upscale your own art has no ethical problem, in my opinion. Even if you thought that's taken away jobs from people, it is 100% going to happen. I find it much easier to just accept that it's going to happen because the tool is out there for everyone now.
Have existed for a long time, and these days the AI upscalers, when done right, do tend to be vastly superior to traditional methods, but again, when done right. Another example of this, and one that's a bit more successful, is another Blizzard project called Cataclysm Classic. It actually uses a similar technique to pretty damn good effect with its new high-res texture option. But you see, here's the problem, right? There are wins and losses here, and that's because AI upscaling is not deterministic. Sometimes it can just completely cock up and you'll just get bad work.
These look really bad. Yeah, it's true. These look bad. I mean, I think the priest looks all right. Like it's a bit like an oil painting. The Wormmail has weird cracks on top. The farm suddenly has no more flooring. This dragon spawn. What is this? This looks like a chibi Sylvana's head encased in ice. I don't even know what this is. Or is it a frog? Some kind of extremophile frog that lives in ice. This is all grainy and washed out. This sheep looks snide. Here there's some kind of weird green artifacts. Yeah, I don't know what happened with some of these. So I wonder whether it's realistic to expect them to improve some of these. These icons probably are the most egregious example of shoddy work that came with patch 2.0, yeah. It's lazy, yeah.
And that means that while it's a tool you can use as a part of your process, you'll absolutely need both manual touch-up work and a lot of quality assurance. And in this case, I just do not think that that has happened. Some icons are particularly bad,
Fair.
And there are some models where, when you look close, they do just kind of feel wrong. Now, many people will still be able to play this with Classic HD and perceive it as being an upgrade, especially if they're playing in a high resolution and they are not pixel peeping. But this is below the quality bar that I expected, and it is nowhere near the gameplay concepts that Blizzard showed off, and because they're concepts that Blizzard made, we probably...
That's fair, especially also when you look at this torrent. Do you see how rounded the torrent's shoulders are? Like both of these, do you see the muscles on the Tauren's shoulders? This kind of roundedness, Warcraft 3 SD or HD models do not have this. They are still blocky. Yeah, he's jacked, and you can see it.
Play concepts that Blizzard showed off, and because they're concepts that Blizzard made, we probably know that those were Blizzard's original visual targets for this project, which I would say insinuates that something didn't go quite to plan. Now, thankfully, this stuff is optional and customizable. There's a new menu that lets you toggle between environments, hero icons, VFX, buildings, and units between Classic HD and Reforged. The menus are quite a bit better. You can re-theme to Frozen Throne, multiplayer progression has been iterated on, Warcraft 1 and Warcraft 2 music has been added as an option, and a whole bunch of other things. And barring some bugs, like the crazy thing that the Mac OS version was announced to be fixed, but then wasn't actually
Twice. Twice. It's been announced to be fixed twice, and some people yesterday still reported that it's not working properly. If you are one of these 5 people, make sure to reinstall the game, which is the official directive by Blizzard, in order to play with the Mac. And if that still doesn't work, make sure to baby rage about it legitimately, because like you have not been able to play the game for almost 2 months now, which is pretty ridiculous.
Fixed. This, generally speaking, is progress. Warcraft 3 Reforged, you could say, is in its best official state ever. This is a step forward, and Warcraft 3 is a legendary game, one that I would heartily recommend anyone to play. It's where Warcraft as we know it actually came into its own, and it's a bloody good time as a game.
True.
And in all fairness, the new version of the Reforged environment and lighting art is, I'd say, substantially more in line with Warcraft 3's art style, so perhaps toggling those on, but using the classic models, would be the ideal way to play. But we can all see what this isn't. It is not something that will bring Warcraft RTS fundamentally back. It is not an Age of Empires 2 HD edition to Definitive Edition scale glow-up. And to understand why...
Yeah, anyone that wasn't playing Warcraft 3 has not much extra reason to play now. There are some quality of life offered, but are those enough to have people start playing? But anyone that was already playing has been given the olive branch by Blizzard, has been given repairs on a semi-broken game, and now it's only getting better and better with patches almost every day. So it's been really good for the core Warcraft scene, whereas the outside world wonders, why should I start playing now when I wasn't playing before? But when you think of that question, what would it really take for you to start playing Warcraft 3 again if you aren't already playing? I wonder what people would want. New campaign missions that never existed before. Even if they were gonna do that, it wouldn't be now. It wouldn't be with patch 2.0. Why would it be? So many things are still broken. So it's really good to understand this in the context of what it is and what it isn't. If Blizzard had come out and said, there's a new race, there's 5 new campaign missions after the original story ended that pick up some of the WoW story. There are new units. We've got new DLC. The reaction of everyone in the outside world and within the Warcraft 3 scene would be, how can you do this while the game is still in a very broken state? How can you do this now? First, clean up your mess, fix the things you broke, add much needed quality of life features, then start thinking about paid for content, about new content, about content that excites players that aren't currently playing the game.
We just need to take a look at the credits, because man, they are revealing. The Warcraft RTS team has 3 people in it. Yes, 3 people, that's what's in the credits. One of them is also somebody who works on WoW.
New Reforged 2.0 section was added to Warcraft's in-game credits that reveals the following details. Warcraft RTS team, Brad Chan, Clayton Stone, Dylan Binder. So the Warcraft RTS team is 3 people, and here's Playside Studios, by the way, which is the studio that made Age of Darkness, I believe. Aren't they the Australian studio that made Age of Darkness and that were brought on? Like, we heard that they were doing contract work for Blizzard. So the team is 3 people, which is not 1 janitor, but it's 3 people. But they have the resources available of Playside Studios and external art, external development, and site reliability engineers. So it really is more than 3 people. When we hear stories about Diablo 4, we hear things like over 9,000 people have contributed to Diablo 4. Have you guys heard that stat before? It's true. Over 9,000 people have put in work into Diablo 4. That's also not 9,000 full-time employees on the Diablo 4 team. That's something like this. So you can either say, people on 2.0, it's 3 people, or you can say it was 30 people.
Classic as a producer, so I've got to assume that they're not full-time in this. There are 2 other additional producers and 3 people labeled as external art, plus 2 outsourced studios, Gasket Games and Playside Studios.
Oh, Gasket
now,
Games.
Of course,
outsourcing
is normal in the industry. It's just that here, it does appear to be rather heavy, and taking a look at the final product, quality control has not been ideal. And I think what this shows is fundamentally limited resource allocation to the project, and Blizzard not investing in a more robust in-house team. You see, outsourcing can go well. If you take a look at Age of Empires 2, a lot of its success has mixed external studios and mod teams turned professional, but this with Warcraft is not that.
Yeah, that could have been sick if they involved some modders, people who are like really passionate about the game. And they actually did involve some of the modding team of the 2018 project of Reforged that were released in 2020. Some people from Hive Workshop were involved, but for patch 2.0, this, I believe, was not the case.
There is a difference between Warcraft 3 and Age of Empires 2, fundamentally, and its cost. Bringing Warcraft 3 Reforged to par with Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition in terms of product quality would be far more expensive. Warcraft 3's production values, its cinematic ambitions, its complexity, its differentiation between the races, those are just expensive, and that means that they're...
Exactly, that's what I said as well. Like, it'd be nice to get a remaster in the style of Age of Empires 2, Command & Conquer, or StarCraft 1, but Warcraft 3 is more expensive than all of those games. Maybe than all of those games combined. I'm not 100% sure about that, because there are so many models, voice lines, assets, etc.
They're never going to put that much money in. They just won't see return on investment. And that absolutely is a shame. A War 3 remake that matches the ambition of the original Reforged pitch. Remade campaigns, honestly, something closer to a Resi 4 sort of taken things, that would have been immense, but it's not what we got. That being said, there is another thing. It's Warcraft 1 and 2 remastered. Now, sadly, those have not been remastered as extensively as StarCraft remastered, but they are both radically more playable. Both games have got fully remade art, and Warcraft 2 looks especially good, I'd say the orcs most of all. It's just a far cleaner image, though a few animations are off just looking at, say, the lumberers. Beyond that, though, it is great. The FOV is greatly expanded, so you're not looking with this tiny FOV, which is fantastic. It feels a lot more modern. There are loads of fantastic usability improvements, health bars, innovations like tooltips, and for Warcraft 1, box select, and being able to select 12 units at a time. Truly is a game changer, actually. Now, this is the sort of thing that is not an Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition scale effort, but it is solid, and it's solid to the point where, for me, it's an easy recommendation, Warcraft 2 more so than Warcraft 1. But more than that, it also fits what Microsoft have been doing. Let's take stock of the big picture. So StarCraft Remastered and StarCraft 2's 3 campaigns are actually now all part of Game Pass PC, which you can access on the BNet app, which is pretty damn good.
It's crazy.
So it wouldn't be surprising to see that sort of thing happen with these 3 games, especially because they're now part of the relaunched Battle Chest for $39.99. And you look at that and think, well, that should be a good value. It's 3 whole games. War 3 is terrific. And I would say in a pure money for video game sense, it's totally worth it. Yeah. Warcraft 3 cost like, what, $60, $50 when it came out, and it was worth that amount of money then. It's absolutely worth that now. But is this specific incarnation of it worth it in return for the effort that Blizzard put in? I would say there, things are absolutely less clear. Those up-res textures could be made by modders and probably would be made better. Reforged does not live up to its actual promise, and Blizzard's investment here does not match the significance that their Warcraft Direct placed on this project. In a way, it's like price.
Well, their investment isn't completely done yet. I think the most unfortunate thing that is not maybe clear to everyone from the outside world and even from within the scene is the commitment of the Warcraft RTS team that I hope, that I believe in actually, and that I hope will not be founded wrongly, and I think it won't be founded wrongly, the commitment to continue working on it. And so when I look at the reception on Wednesday, people were relatively very positive. And then over the next few days, we found many bugs. And some people were starting to get a little mad. Like map makers have been pretty mad because many of their maps have been broken, which by the way is inevitable. And then when they just got around to starting to fix it, another hot fix would come out that would fix important good things, but would again break something else. So as frustrations were rising, satisfaction with the progress of Warcraft 3 patching was actually going down a bit. But yesterday, a patch came out that fixed many things that was very popular. I saw the discourse on Reddit today, on the Warcraft Reddit, in my Discord and in my Twitch channel, and people were really positive about this patch, which is one of many. Look at this, 19 hours ago, 2 days ago, 7 days ago, right? So there have been some patches, not all of which have been cataloged here on the Warcraft 3 Reforged hotfix website, but some of them have been secret server-side patches that would fix things. Yesterday, this happened. Bug fix, right? Map preview functionality. When a player mouses over the map list in the versus setup screen, you've got the sound effects to the switches. When you click the different classic HD and Reforged buttons, you hear the sound when you click it. You can now choose only Orc or only Human Warcraft 2 music, or play all the music that are in the jukebox of the game, of Warcraft 1, 2, and 3, together, cycling around. Classic HD buildings no longer use Reforged Fire. You can now have your classic cursor always, even when you play in Reforged or Classic HD mode. You can now use classic sound effects always, even when you're in Classic HD or Reforged mode. This is all really, really good. And this is a really important one that has placated map makers quite a bit. Reforged Terrain from 2020 just got redone quite a bit in patch 2.0 a week ago. And while in the eyes of many it would be an improvement, first of all, it's not an improvement in everyone's eyes. I do think the terrain was greatly improved, but some of these map makers were relying on the old art by now to create a consistent look of their very extensive map that they worked on for years. So, and all this old terrain was no longer reachable. It was no longer accessible. And so Blizzard saw this, and they added all this old terrain that they were ready to throw away and replace, and they just dumped it in a collection folder called Terrain Art Old. And so the game isn't using it at all anymore, but in the world editor, map makers can now find this and place it back into their map. This is a total W that really helps the map makers to get their terrain back and so on. And so this proves that Blizzard is reading their feedback, that they care, and that they're putting it into the game. It's so easy to hate on Blizzard these days, and has been so easy in the last years, even to the point where you may not recognize good things when they're happening. As we say in Dutch, a snake under the grass, right? A nasty surprise, a sudden disappointment. And the small t trauma that we got from Reforged is always lurking to trigger old wounds. But good things really are happening, right? At the moment. And I hope it keeps up and that we don't get, re-offended, let's say. But a lot of good things here. I'm particularly happy about these two.
Anchoring. Reforged set expectations so low that Update 2.0 could kind of look good, but in reality, I would say it is below average for what this sort of project is. And I'm left with a clear sense of things. Number one, the big anniversaries were enough of an excuse for Blizzard to do something here and try to right a wrong.
Oh, I wanted to mention one more thing. The anniversary is a timed event that was going to happen on 13 November, definitively. And so wherever the teams were in their organic process of delivering news or patches, it was tied to that day. I think what would have been ideal to have a couple of more people involved on the NDA to provide more feedback and to prepare the patch and let it cook for a couple of more weeks or months and then release it. That would probably be ideal. Then you would get less patch 2.0 is great, but there are these bugs and there are these shortcomings. They happen to need to meet the marketing beat of 13 November, but now we're still experiencing good upgrades after that.
Like the 30th anniversary of the Warcraft franchise. Point two, then, they're able to justify that by bundling it into a $39.99 product, and I would say, point three, that's probably it. They can probably mark Reforged off as being fixed. The old RTS games...
It's not. They said they're going to keep working on it. Brad said in the anniversary direct, if something is broken, we fix it, and if it's not good enough, we'll make it better, right? So he's not as involved, knowing that there's still daily patches going on. As someone said, Bellular is being negative about Blizzard because a new WoW expansion is not close. I don't think he's being negative, but I think he is I believe he believes all this to be true, and he's true about most of it, but there are a lot of nuances that maybe he's not as familiar with, which is why I'm saying, like, hey, I disagree about this thing, and I think this thing isn't true, but these other things are true. Because it gets him clicks? Of course he wants clicks. Everybody wants clicks, right? But that doesn't mean that you can't at the same time have integrity and to show things that are interesting and true. Now, but because he doesn't rely on the Warcraft scene, it's easier for him to think it's just bad and then move on, right? And I don't blame him for that at all, but that's why I do this video, because, and I like watching him a lot, right? Like, I like Bellular a lot. I think he got really good at presenting information, but it's good to be able to look at this and say, this is true, this is not.
Honored and just move on, making a few bucks, mending the reputation, and perhaps having another thing that they can bundle in with Game Pass for PC. Now, I don't blame anyone on this game's team, or even the Warcraft executive team, for the way that this ended up going. At the end of the day, this is something that appears to be completely budget constrained. They were not willing to put the money in here. They were not willing to expand the internal RTS team to the point where this could be done right. And the reason why is likely just return on investment. Now, you may...
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Supposedly, Stormgate, Frost Giant Studios, they're working on their Stormgate game, right? Frost Giant Studios. Supposedly, they spent about $1 million per month, on trying to build the game. And that's, of course, a bigger team than this. But it's not a team of hundreds of people, right? That's $1 million a month. So the question is always, what's the return on investment?
May say, what about Age of Empires? And that is a fair point, but before Microsoft committed to spending more money there, they did have an extremely active Age of Empires 2 player base. Now, there is an active Warcraft 3 player base, but evidently not enough to make a larger project actually be worth the money. Our wet dream is, of course, War 3 Reforged by way of the Resi 4 remake, but that's just that. It's a dream. The numbers almost certainly do not add up. But thankfully, there's a little bit of a silver lining. They don't need to add up for us to get more content. Mod teams exist, and for Warcraft 3, they are damn dedicated. And most notable of all right now are Lorecraft Designs. They are actually working on remaking Warcraft 2 in Warcraft 3 Reforged. Wow. It is a hell of a project. Now, there's a bit of bad news. They have had some graphical issues with their orc campaign.
Oh, I know Lorecraft Designs now, I think. Isn't Templier Eugene making this? He was very, very mad about Warcraft 3 patch 2.0 because because of the art assets that were broken and replaced. But he's now been given all of it back. So this part that Bellular is talking about now is actually not a problem anymore because of the patch I just showed.
They are actually working on remaking Warcraft 2 in Warcraft 3 Reforged. It is a hell of a project. Now, there's a bit of bad news. They have had some graphical issues with their orc campaign, and the orc campaign is what you can download and play today. They are currently working on their Rise of the Alliance campaign.
This looks good.
I would at least say that on the basis of their work and the core quality of Warcraft 3 as a game, I can recommend that you pick up Reforged. And while I think the Battle Chest is a tough ask for $39.99, it will almost certainly be discounted or on PC Game Pass.
This looks pretty badass, man. I mean, it looks pretty damn good. These kind of cinematic zoom-ins, insane. Look at the lighting and everything.
If it is discounted, I heartily recommend it, and if it ends up in PC Game Pass, the same also applies, because there is great content here, and those modders deserve to have more people see their work. And if you're a fan of how cold business ends up corrupting things, take a look at this, because Overwatch Classic got me to try out the game, and when I went in, oh man, the difference between what we had and what we have is pretty bad.
Just sad. Overwatch Classic is depressing. Wait, are they actually doing Overwatch Classic? I thought that was a dream that I had. I thought it was a nightmare. Is this actually real? Oh, it's an event? Oh, okay. For 2 weeks. Wow, that's great. But I'm willing to guess it's an event for 2 weeks, but if people really like it, they're going to release a standalone Overwatch Classic game and sell it again. And then they're going to announce Overwatch Classic 2.0, and then that is a rug pull too. So with Overwatch being what it is and what happened there, I feel like we've got the lucky end of the stick in having. I think honestly, not in terms of size, not in terms of profit, but in terms of agile development, are we the lucky ones in the Warcraft 3 scene? StarCraft 2 is being managed by the Balance Council. Overwatch, $75 skins, right? WoW, even today, still need to pay a subscription to just play the game. Warcraft 3, we're getting free updates to admittedly a broken product, but we've already mostly processed the grief from 2020. And now we're getting free updates weekly or daily. So overall, I think a pretty good video by Bellular. The developments are happening fast, which is why some things that were a problem during the making of this video by him aren't even a problem much anymore. And for the core Warcraft 3 player, 2.0 has been really good. And I think the part that he talked about the least, but is a really, really big deal, is how much more we enjoy the look of the client. He didn't show like the new chat rooms. These are really important to us. The new chat rooms, the return of clans, the return of the old looking client. Who can claim that the visual aspect of those, the restoration of the vibe of old Warcraft is not important to us? Because it is. But really good video. I'll link you guys the video if you want to give it a like or follow his channel. I think it's very good content. I hope you enjoyed.